Market sentiment is down. Bitcoin price dropped over 3%. Everyone's talking of a crash. My camera's zooming into the wrong spot. Anyway, Crypto Neil here, coming in with another market update for everyone. Welcome to the channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, I do appreciate, and let's jump right on into it. So today, Bitcoin has dropped over 3% in what appears to be the beginning of a talk of a crash. So what can we do to stay safe in times of uncertainty? Well, I always look at one of the OGs of investing, and you all have heard this before, Mr. Warren Buffett. Be fearful when others are greedy. Be greedy when others are fearful. When there's fear in the market, I like to be greedy. So we're going to look at lower term timeframes as well on Bitcoin to determine where a bottom could come in. Ultimately, jumping back to a few videos, we talked about the former all-time high, and if Bitcoin was failing to close above that all-time high, then it basically was subject to be range bound, which we've gotten a rejection from the all-time high. We never closed above. So I said there's a high likelihood we come back down and test the bottom of the range, which we are just teleporting to. And that is why everyone is panicking. Looking at a large time frame on the daily, we can kind of draw a little trend line here to see where our support resistance levels come in at. We've bounced at this area twice now. We are coming in for a third test here, which would ultimately be a little 1, 2, 3 wave correction if we do get the bounce and if we confirm this as support. Right now, ultimately, we just confirmed a lower low. So I would be looking more midterm for price to, at minimum, test this 92.5K region. But for the short term, when there's high sell pressure in the market, we could definitely see a bounce. But there are other indicators in the market that say otherwise. We do have volatility expanding on a large time frame on the daily, and we do have a break in the RSI below this bullish control zone, entering the bearish control zone. So ultimately, if we don't reclaim this very, very soon, this correction could not only test this lower range, could actually get quite nasty, and we could be in for one of Bitcoin's famous 22% corrections. Ultimately, if we do get a larger correction, I am looking around the, I think, 84K region, but we'll visit that in a later video. For now, we're going to look at lower term time frames to see if this is going to bounce off support. So jumping all the way down to the hourly, we want to be looking for some type of divergences in RSI. That means price is going lower and RSI is going higher. Right now, we don't really have that at all on the hourly. On the half hour, 15-minute is kind of the first time frame where we can see any type of divergence. And I'll just circle off the low here, the wick low here, and then on RSI, can't really see it. We have a low here, and then we have a higher low here, and potential a higher low forming here. So with that, we can see lower lows in price, higher lows in RSI. We could potentially see a bounce off this yellow support line that we drew on the daily, and that ultimately could lead to the reversal on starting on lower time frames, but then eventually bleed into the higher time frames where we could see a bounce. But until then, until we actually see this playing out, ultimately we have to be very cautious that this could go lower. So why exactly is this coming down? Well, I believe it's because of the tariffs that Trump has imposed on Canada of 25%, and the Prime Minister of Canada ultimately fighting back with tariffs of their own in the exact same manner, in the exact same fashion of 25%. So there's a lot of fear in the market. A lot of people are uncertain what that's going to do for the price of goods, things like groceries, even people are concerned about fuel costs. Ultimately, the market's going to do whatever the market wants to do. Whether news influences that or just fuels that, I really don't like trading the news. I just think it's ultimately fuel for the fire. So if price is going to go down and retest the lower support zone, then I think it's going to do it more quickly when there's fear being injected into the market because of such news events. So that being said, you may not even get a test of this support. You may ultimately bleed lower, but as Warren Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful. So right now is a time where I'm looking to be a little bit greedy and looking for some buy orders on lower time frames. But like I said, we need confirmation of that, and we haven't got that yet. So we're just kind of sitting on our hands and waiting. If you are positioned heavily in alts, well, your portfolio is going to be down. And this is why you need to be very cautious investing in these altcoins, investing in things that don't have high liquidity, that aren't traded with high volume, because they can move high percentiles and really wreck your portfolio. So you want to be positioned in strong assets in times of dips where you think the price is going to rebound, things that are outperforming, things that haven't bled quite as hard. That's where you want to position yourself in. Also, I've noticed, I forget the fund's name, but there's a certain investment fund that I believe Trump owns, and he's been buying Ethereum like crazy. I believe to the tune of around $197 million worth of Ethereum has been bought in the last 2 weeks. I also think BlackRock has been purchasing Ethereum as well, around 87 million. These are just numbers that I'm remembering off the top of my head, so don't quote me for that. But I'm not just pulling numbers out of my ass either. So look those up, and that will give you some insight as to, the big whales are accumulating at these levels. They're certainly not fearful at these levels. So keep that in the back pocket. And we're going to jump on into Ethereum now on a higher turn time frame. I did mark off this major support resistance zone, this somewhat symmetrical triangle that we've been respecting. Now, I marked this box here in the middle because we have had daily support wick off this zone several times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before breaking down and ultimately consolidating lower. So we reclaimed that zone here during November, and now we are simply back testing it. And ultimately, this is very, very bullish for price. If we hold this zone, you do want to see price break out, back test as support, and then ultimately climb higher. If you break below this zone, then you're going to see price test this daily lower range, which is the lower blue line I have drawn here. This is not financial advice, but if price comes down to this 2400 zone, if price comes down like this right here is the best buy you're going to get this cycle on Ethereum, hands down. If, and that's a big if, we get there. But until we get there, I see this zone as a major support zone. So personally, I am starting to accumulate Ethereum here for the swing trade to see if we set the higher high and this confirm as a lower low. That's kind of down the line, so I'm sure I'll make more videos about that as PA develops, as price action develops. But until then, that's just what I'm seeing. If you want to front run this, you go down to lower time frames, you can kind of see what's going on here. So on the 15-minute, same idea that I spoke about earlier about divergences. We have a low in price formed here, a low in price, or a low in RSI. We have a lower low in price. This low is lower than this low, and we have a higher low in RSI. This low is higher than this low in RSI. So that is the first sign of divergence. And where is it happening? Exactly in this highlighted region, in this daily demand zone, is exactly where we're getting divergences. So again, Warren Buffett, be greedy when others are fearful. Look for the reversal. Monday's statistics, Monday's range statistics. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can reference my previous video on Bitcoin volatility, where we talked about Bitcoin range daily statistics. I talked about in that video what the likelihood of each day is to close positive or negative. Going into tomorrow, Monday has the highest likelihood of closing positive, around 54%. It also has the highest gain if it closes positively, around 3%. So we can obviously apply those statistics to price and project how high we could bounce going into tomorrow. this is actually Ethereum's chart, so what I just spoke about is irrelevant to this chart. But jumping into Bitcoin, if we do get a nice bounce off support, what could that look like? Well, we could see price go essentially back to where we broke down from, around the 100K level. Again, very, very key support. You reclaim that, you're going higher. If you reject off that, you're going to test the bottom side of the range. So that's kind of what we could see for this week. Maybe a little bounce, come back down, something like that. I have no idea, but we play it day by day. And right now we're at support, so we look for longs. Anyway, I think, where are we at now in the video? 10 minutes. Okay, yeah, I think that's going to do it for me. If you haven't yet subscribed, I would appreciate you hitting that big sub button. Drop a like on this video, and if you haven't seen the previous video on Bitcoin volatility, give that a watch too. And hopefully these videos are educational and offer you some insight onto the cryptocurrency market and kind of ease your mind in these times of uncertainty and high volatility and crashing 3%. Come on, it's not a crash. Buy the dip. Not financial advice. That's going to do it for me. Let's grow together. Crypto Neil out.